So I came across this article earlier on, and admittedly, it's not really a subject that I know that much about, partly due to the fact that there seems to be a silence from every single politician in Britain, and the mainstream media never even touch on the subject if they can avoid it. But it goes on to say here that Italy are willing to join a European military intervention initiative, the government has said, saying on Thursday, September the 19th, that it's ready to join a European military coalition to react to crises near the continent's borders as the country's new government rekindles ties with the EU. The announcement follows a Wednesday visit to Rome by Emmanuel Macron for talks with the PM, aimed at turning the page on Italy's previous anti-European Union populist government. It then says, however, the idea behind EI2 is to develop the capability to rapidly deploy on joint military operations, civilian evacuations or disaster relief. Belgium, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Germany, the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain and the UK have signed up to the French-led initiative, which was formed in June last year and is outside European Union and NATO frameworks. French Minister for the Armed Forces said at the time that the European Invention Initiative is clearly an initiative that allows some non-EU states to associate, noting that the UK wants to maintain cooperation with Europe beyond bilateral ties. Now, after I did a bit of digging, I then came across this. The European Intervention Initiative is a French-led initiative set up by Macron in September 2017 as part of his vision for a sovereign, united and democratic Europe. Participation is by invitation only, and a letter of intent launching the initiative was signed by 9 European countries on the 25th of June 2018. At its heart, the EII will be a flexible and non-binding forum in European states that are able and willing to engage their military forces when and where necessary in order to protect European security interests across a spectrum of crises and without prejudice to the framework through which action is taken. It will not create a standing European force, nor does it envisage the creation of a new rapid reaction force. Participation in any of its specific initiatives or any military operations that result will be subject to sovereign national decision making. The EII also intends to contribute towards ongoing efforts within the EU and NATO to deepen defence cooperation. The UK first signals its intent to get involved in January of 2018 following a Franco-British summit on defence cooperation and is one of the signatories of the letter of intent. Given the EII is a defence initiative outside the governance of the European Union, UK's participation will not be affected in any way by Brexit. However, UK participation in an initiative that is so closely linked to EU defence projects, and PESCO in particular, has raised some concerns among pro-Brexit commentators who fear that the initiative could involve Britain in an embryonic European army by the back door. The EII, or the EI2, as well as PESCO, which is the Permanent Structured Cooperation, which was created by the Lisbon Treaty. Jean-Claude Juncker described PESCO as the sleeping beauty of the Lisbon Treaty, with the reason for him to make this statement being that PESCO was not activated in 2009 despite having the potential to make CSDP more effective. Established on Article 42.6 of the Treaty on the European Union, according to which those member states whose military capabilities fulfil higher criteria and which have more binding commitments to one another in this area with a view to the most demanding missions shall establish permanent structured cooperation. 25 out of the 28 member states participating in PESCO except Malta, UK and Denmark. PESCO's objective is to deepen defence cooperation between the member states and make EU defence more efficient. The main questions arising from the activation of PESCO is why it happened almost a decade after the Lisbon Treaty and not in 2009, but the three main reasons justifying that. First, due to Brexit, defence integration in the EU could advance further. The UK has mainly created barriers regarding defence cooperation inside the Union. Secondly, the election of Donald Trump has convinced Europeans that they need to be more responsible for their own security, which ties in with the article that I came across earlier on as it goes, near enough on point. Ursula von der Leyen, or whatever her name is, when she was Germany's defence minister, stated that the Brexit referendum and the US election opened their eyes, that Europeans must take responsibility for their own security. Third, recent political and military turmoil in the neighbouring countries of the European Union, such as the annexation of Crimea by Russia, illustrate that most of the member states need to advance their defence capabilities, right? But then, when you come down to the bottom of this, The main issue is that the EU should strengthen European identity, and therefore certain criteria should exist to promote European values. The participation in PESCO should be limited to third European countries or to countries that share the same values as the EU, such as democracy, respect and human rights. Then states who share the same ideas and ethics and have the necessary military capabilities could become part of PESCO. The decision may also provide common ground for EI2 and PESCO to cooperate. If countries who are sharing the same values within the EU can participate or other defence mechanisms can become part of CSDP, then the EU's defence system might be enhanced. To conclude, both initiatives, EI2 and PESCO, can contribute to the strategic autonomy of the EU if both cooperate with each other. Strategic autonomy does not indicate the EU acting alone, but to use all of its capabilities. PESCO has the potential to be strategic autonomy is not limited to defence, but it covers all aspects of interaction and cooperation. PESCO has the potential to be developed into a game changer for EU defence. Strengthening the EU military projects does not only defend Europe from external challenges, but from internal ones as well. Inside the EU, two different groups exist: those who want to destroy multilateralism, to promote nationalism, and those who want a progressive EU foreign policy. The EU's global strategy provides concrete steps towards. The rest of the world sees the EU as a global actor, but the question is whether the EU understands that. To sum up, developing a European strategic culture can lead the European countries to take more responsibilities for their own security and be more united. Europe does not need to develop defence in two different levels, but all the countries should be united as they face a rival in Russia and an increasingly powerful China and a Jacksonian US. Point being that the whole point of Brexit was supposed to be leaving the European Union. And time after time after time, talk of an EU army or the next best thing have constantly been dismissed. And there's a silence from every single politician for the most part, as well as the mainstream media. But behind the scenes, things like this have been agreed upon. Entangling our military with the European Union's PESCO project, and fuck knows what else. And it does bring me back to something that I touched upon a few weeks ago. A little snippet from Boris Johnson in Parliament.
Constituents are asking me that when we finally leave on the 31st of October, that if it were to be without a deal, there will be no adverse effect on any UK-European defence collaboration, especially in the field of procurement, manufacture and wider operations.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend, and I can tell him that we are proceeding with huge collaborations across the front with our European friends, and I have no reason to believe that any of them will be interrupted.
Just what is going on? And what are our governments not telling us? Peace.